Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome. Um, Tonight I'm going to be painting the Lancelot miniature from Big Child Creatives. I've done a little bit of work on this guy already. Um, but I don't like the look of his pants. I don't like how his leather pants are as bright as what's going on up here, and kind of drawing attention away from the top of the miniature. So we are going to call an audible on this guy and prove that acrylic paint isn't permanent and that things can be fixed. So I'm going to cue the music and we're going to get started. So first things first, I want to try something to see if I can actually just bring the color down slightly without having to completely repaint the pants. Although I'm not super happy with just the brown color or the orange color of them. I want them to be more brown. So the first thing that we're going to try to do is just a wash. Or a glaze, rather. I've thinned down some brown leather from scale 75. I'm going in here and just trying to glaze this down a bit. And we are going to also darken his white I don't actually know what this thing's called. We're going to call it a jacket for our purposes. I'm going to try to darken down his jacket, his overcoat as well on the bottom, just because it would be a little bit darker down here. So we're going to try to make that a little bit less bright on the bottom as well. And I'm going to shade everything kind of blue, because this guy is going to be in a very, very cold environment. So that's the plan. But we're just trying to see if I can save the pants. This is 100% proof that acrylic paint is not permanent. So you can make any changes you want. Don't be afraid to actually paint something. We can already see the brightness on those on these pants rather, starting to come down a little bit. And all I want is it to come down enough that it's not the same orange and drawing attention away from the top of the miniature, because you want the eyes of people to be drawn to the top of the miniature. So all this needs to be a lot darker. And with glazing, you just pull towards where you want the majority of your paint to be left on the miniature. It is a patient process. But you can see already from where we started, the results are much better. It's already half as bright as the sword and the beard, so I'm already very happy with that. We'll take it down just a couple notches further, and then I will add some highlights into here. And if anybody has any questions or anything, hey Matt, do feel free. Saw you were playing Elden Ring. Are you untarnished, and do you have you acquired a maiden yet? Matt, is the music too loud, or am I too loud? Is anything? No and no. Have you have you tried flowers? I hear that works on occasion. Maybe try flowers, homie. Still on the grind. Yeah, I actually, listen, you're going to be super proud of me. I reinstalled that game. So, nah, sounds good. Perfect. Thank you, sir. I actually reinstalled that game, so we'll be able to get a few rounds in. I say a few rounds like it's a Rocket League. We'll be able to get a little bit of Elden Ring in here very soon. I just wanted to get through some of this stuff. You know what, Matt? While I've got you here, since you're such a big Orc fan, you gotta check out some of these commission pieces that I started putting together today. They're pretty sweet, actually. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. So, well, I'm gonna paint the orcs separate, obviously, but this guy sits right up here like that. He just rides there on top of his happy little orc, man, or happy little squig. Orcs, orcs, orcs. Yes, sir. I knew you'd like that. See, already a massive difference between the pants and the sword hilt. That's the thing that I didn't want, was people not to be really, if your miniature is the same brightness all over, unless you're going for a neon paint scheme or something like that, it's gonna appear really busy. So we will probably actually go a little bit darker. You like those? I just realized today that I have another whole box of Orcs Boys that are mine that I literally didn't even know was down there. I'm gonna have to do something with those. I like the way this is going now. See, we got our shiny gold here. I like that. I like the way this is looking already. Probably make it a little bit darker. Give me just a second here. I apologize. We will probably end up making it a little bit darker. But that remains to be seen. Okay, so back to it. And then once I get these pants to kind of the area that I want them, we'll come back in and we'll bring the highlights back, because we also don't want a flat brown. The pants are going to be highlighted. They're just not going to be highlighted to the extent that the sword is up here. So we'll bring some orange back into these pants, maybe a little bit of ice yellow just to pick out the highlights. But they will be nowhere near what the sword is. That color, that's exactly what we're aiming for. So the whole reason, if you follow me on Instagram, there is a few pictures of this guy that are up. And he has a teal colored coat here that I changed to white, strictly because someone that saw him told me it looked like an Assassin's Creed mini, and since they put that little nugget in my brain, I had to paint it like an Assassin's Creed mini. I literally had no choice. So, in case I didn't mention it because I have the memory of a... Yeah, well, that's just in case you crap yourself on the battlefield map. In case I didn't mention this earlier, this is brown leather, and I'm now going to mix in a bit of scrag brown instead of the bright orange that I was using, so that our highlights stay nice and chill compared to the sword. We still want to have highlights, and we still want to draw interest to this area, but the top of the mini, people look at faces and weapons. Those are your big ticket items when you're mini painting, so always concentrate on your faces and weapons. You're not going to see a whole lot of change in this at first, and that's just fine. slight, subtle little changes are exactly what we're after. We want to get all the folds here. Perfect. And then we'll just add a little, because the area is so small, I'm not super worried about blending. And because we're doing brown to brown, both of those colors are going to contain a lot of orange. Are you adding a dirty wear layer over the highlight? Yes. So the pants were too bright. They were essentially as bright. The pants were essentially as bright as the sword. So the problem that I was running into was it made the whole thing look very busy, rather than your eye, you see the pants, but you're being drawn towards the top of the miniature. With these being the same hue and tone, it was very busy everywhere. So I'm going to darken the bottom of this cloak here, and I'm going to darken these pants, and we'll just start highlighting now with just scratch marks. Because leather, especially leather pants, probably for one, chafe, and two, are not going to be. This is probably the last highlight. It's a very small highlight for down here. It's probably the last one for there. But for one, they're going to chafe like crazy, and for two, they probably don't stay pristine for very long. I can imagine them getting pretty wrinkly and scuffy, and then, on Taco Bell night, it just gets out of hand. Just some little scuffs. And see, you can see that now we have just a little bit of a highlight on the top of that thigh if I rotate it around. Just a little bit of a highlight, but not enough to match the sword up here, and that's exactly what we're after. And I'm not going to highlight this anymore. I'm just pulling these pants out just a little bit. That's actually perfect right there. What I might do is take some of this ice yellow and mix in. And this is just, I might do this. I'm still deciding as I'm mixing paint and dipping the brush. But now I'm going to come in here and just do some very little, literally just for texture. This is probably imperceptible to you. But, oh, it's actually not. You can see those little scuff marks, can't you? Whoo! Alright, so let's, while we're here, very much dilute this brown, and let's take this this white cloak a little bit more towards brown on the bottom. Now I'm also going to add some blue from below, because this guy is standing on top of an icy mountain, but that's where we are right now. I think that looks 100 times better than when we started. I like that very much. And the good news is, from here, we can use the same colors that I have on my palette. Starting off with the brown leather, which I realized recently may be the most used color that I have. I use it for everything. But we're going to come in here and we're going to start working this leather that's under the wolf skin, under the wolf skin that he's wearing. This as well, because of where it's located under him. I'll have some highlights here, but for the most part, this is not going to be overly highlighted. So you can see, actually, this is a perfect example. This and this are painted with the exact same colors. The highlight stops much sooner than this, because this is in an area that would catch direct light, and this is under him. So just keep those kind of things in mind when you're doing this. go. And another audible that I may call on this miniature at some point is to change the color of the wolf pelt. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see. The rest of the base that he's on is going to be blue or cold. And I'm going to try adding in some cold themes from below in the shadow area. So we'll see how it all ties in the end. Again, it's acrylic paint. If I decide I don't like it in the end, I will just paint over it. It's not permanent. There's a nice look at the difference in the browns between here and the actual leather. So let's start doing the leather. And for the leather, you know what? I just want to add, I'm just going to do the leather with a little bit of the ice yellow from AK. Because I want it to look like a tanned brown leather, which is also not smooth, so we're going to be very choppy with our highlights. Right there. We do not want a smooth texture on here. That is perfect. Yeah. Okay, so that already kind of beefed up our highlight down here around this. We do not want an even highlight. That's very important. Because this leather is old, there's holes in it. So, we're going for dirty. Just so you can kind of see the consistency of paint I'm working with. It's slightly thinner than you would want, or slightly thicker than your average base coat, just because I'm looking to apply texture. So you can see that the paintbrush strokes here are short and sporadic, and just leaving pretty much notches. That's all I'm after at this point, because this is not a smooth surface. That's one of the things that I had to learn painting very early on. Was a lot of people think that contrast is just between your lights and your darks, but a lot of contrast can be accomplished via textures. So you've got smooth textures, and then on this I'm doing, so basically I have a smooth texture here next to a rough texture here, or a leather texture, and that creates a nice contrast between the two and an interesting point to look at. So whenever you hear the word contrast, it gets thrown a lot, or thrown around a lot rather, in miniature painting. It is not just about your whites and your blacks and your, it's also contrast of, it's not contrast of color is the only thing that needs to be taken from it. Alright, and that is that. I like that a lot. It's looking really good. Okay. Now, for the next bit, I think what I want to do, I want to get this this vambrace out of the way here. And the idea for the vambrace is that I'm going to do a dark brown and with gold trimming on it. That's where I'm heading. But I want this brown to be somewhat close to this brown. So we're going to try to meet in the middle. And the way I did that was obviously with, oh damn. Sorry about your eyes. I just punched the crap out of my camera. We're going to use Arabic sands mixed with what I've come to discover is the most used paint that I have, the brown leather. I got to get more of this. Holy crap. How I'm almost out. I didn't realize I used it so much. I would have swore, especially with the orc commissions that I've been working on, that my most used paint would have been a green, but it's not even close, man. That brown is the star of my show. Okay, so we're going to highlight up we're going to base coat the leather bits. And I do want to be very careful not to get the skin. So a little bit of brush control here, which is where I will probably, after saying that, screw this up royally. And we definitely don't want to get it on the white. That is a huge no-no. Skin would be easier to fix than the white. Alright, that looks really good. Okay, so real quick, while I'm thinking about it, since I mentioned his white shirt, which looks very white and does strike the eye as being very white, I want to go ahead and let you know, if you paint miniatures at all, you'll know that the two hardest colors to paint are white and black. It's a huge learning curve, and they're really difficult. There is actually no white in this at all. This is worked up from brown with ice yellow and ending on a very off-white, almost cream color birch. But I will make a video on how I got this result without using white. I didn't even use white for the highlights. So, we will get to that eventually. I just wanted to bring that up while I was thinking about it. So, alright, let's go ahead and get all these little hidden areas here. Okay. Liking how it looks so far. God, I'm trying to stay in frame. It's difficult to paint in frame, especially if you're not used to doing it. Alright, I like that. Now what I want to do is thin down the same color. Not quite to a glaze consistency, just a little bit waterier than a base coat, and I want to come in here and I want to get paint inside all those lines. And I want the paint thin enough that it runs down in there, but thick enough that it's going to leave pigment in all those cracks. You can kind of see what that does there. The reason I do that is because I'm going to put gold over top of that. And so with the reflection that I'm going to put on, which is probably going to be from here to here, the main reflection, I also want that to be a shadow area, but it doesn't need to be black. It's not going to be black. And then this, of course, let me get that off there. This, of course, is also going to be a huge highlight area for us there. So we'll start to add in some of this Arabic sands. And I pretty much, most of the time when highlighting, when doing like a layering technique, you want to start out pretty subtle, adding your next color in there, but I'm going immediately to a 50-50 mix of these two colors. The Arabic sands and the brown leather. Just because it's such a small area that I'm not super concerned with blending it. So we just want to start getting that highlight in there. Just like that. That looks really good. And I'll put a little bit of one back here. But less of one. So that's probably as far as we're going to go with the highlight back here. As far as like vertical wise. We may add more color to it back there, but that's as far as we're going to go that way. This way, which is the main view of the mini, we're going to add a little bit more highlight to. Okay, and as aforestated, because this is such a small area, we are going to go straight into Arabic sands with our next highlight, and I want to make sure that there's not too much on my brush. I want this to appear like a edge highlight, not a smudge. There we go.
Yeah, I like the way that that turned out a lot. I died to the same boss 5 times in the time I've been watching you. Oh no, what happened? Which boss? You poor, poor man. Was it a boss I've seen yet or no? Oh gosh.
Five times, huh? You know, I don't want to tell you how to play the game, Matt, but have you considered hitting him with your sword?
Because if not, I think that that could actually help you a lot. About to be 6. Okay. Maybe try what I suggested. Maybe try hitting him with your sword. And you can see how here, let me see if I can get that more in focus for you. We do go from dark brown. There is a visible transition. But because it's so small, your eye, the human eye, kind of does the work for me. I don't have to worry about blending that too awful much.
I am actually, though, I am going to add a bit more on the back end here. Not all the way up to what I have on the front, obviously, but I do want just a little bit more here. And that's perfect. I love that. Okay.
That's looking really nice. Matt, how's it going? I need an update. Are you still with us? Are you still alive? You know why you keep dying to that guy, Matt? Because you don't have dual flails yet. We got to do that. Okay, I like what's going on. I may still change the pants. That's kind of up for debate, but
the leather on his back here is looking nice. I really like what's going on with the van brace here.
Let's start to put some gold down. And I'm going to show you what I use for gold, which is fantastic. It's the AK Interactive gold recipe, and I love it. So this is what we're going to be using to get that base down. So I'll go ahead and get those on the palette, and we will start with that.
Okay, so what I want to do now is to put these lines in here, and I actually want to leave some of the black. I do want to outline this whole van brace, though.
That's very important when doing about to be 7.
Matt, go maybe use your words.
have you tried vigorously insulting his mother? Because that could work for sure. Now we're going to move straight into our Sahara Yellow. And this is the exact same recipe that I used for the necklace. So, if you have colors that are anywhere close to this, really, you can achieve the exact same result just by doing these steps. So, always start off by edge highlighting the area. That's where I want that to run, right there. Okay. There we go. And then my main highlight, I actually want to come down through here. So we're just going to do that. And it really depends on how well these colors behave, because already this is a little bit too thin for what I need. And it's starting to run into some of those cracks. But we can fix that a bit later. So that's something that I want to keep in mind from here on out. Is that it is not going to play nice, which is fine. As long as we're able to preserve some of the shadow between these areas, we are golden. How's it going, Matt? I don't understand how you're listening to me talk and playing that game. I had to be zoned into just that game. I couldn't even have music going. We're moving up to Sand Yellow from the same line, obviously. Now, bearing in mind what happened with the last bit, I want to make sure that this is not too thin. That's actually perfect. So, nice edge highlight. That is perfect. Okay. I want to stay just inside the yellow from last time, which I may actually extend out just a bit. Let's go ahead and do that. I want to bring this out just a touch here. There we go. I like the way that looks a lot better. Okay, and that's going to help a lot. And we'll move straight up to the next, which is the ice yellow. And this is when we start being very selective with where we put our highlights here. You know what? I think that this brush is entirely too big for this operation. So let's drop down to the size 0. Yeah, I'm just going to do something else. If you got her down to 5%, you're not under-leveled for it. Matt, you just have to... Haven't you ever seen a single Disney movie in your life? Just believe in yourself. So this is where we want to be a bit more selective with our outline as well. And I just want to come in here. Like that. That was 4 tries ago, dude. What? Oh! You got her down to that level 4 tries ago. Okay, well, Matt, don't listen. The Matt that I know wouldn't give up. Okay? He would march in there. And he would take that victory. Then once he got that victory, he would revive the monster and kill it again for inconveniencing him. That's the Matt Markel that I know. So then I'm just going to come through here and I'm going to pick out just a few white spots just in here. To really give it that, oh, I'm out of focus again. To really give it that metallic shine right there. And then what I would like to do is come in with this dark red brown that we start with, thin it down quite a lot, and reclaim some of these little areas in here that we lost. Which will help a lot with the metallic effect. Okay, so let's come back in, be a little bit more careful and selective, if it's even possible. With our placement here. That does look better. Now let's spread out with the ice yellow again. I should have just been super careful of these areas to begin with, but I was not. So I essentially just created twice the work for myself. There we go. That looks a bit better. Reclaim a bit of the yellow. Okay. This is a tough paint here. Okay. So we've refined leather here, done leather on the back, brought the cloak down, and I'm overall very happy with what's happened so far. I am going to have to refine this a bit more. but I'm probably not going to be able to do that on camera because it's going to have to be this close to my face. But overall, I like the progress that we made, and in the next one, I think what we're going to go ahead and do is just get the top of this guy over with, and I'm going to start with the hawk. So I'm aiming for Wednesday night. I will be attempting to tackle this hawk. You will be hanging out for the first bird I've ever painted, so don't miss it. See you guys in